This is episode 22 of Los Mariachi Sagas. We have a very special guest this week, Miss Cynthia Muñoz, here with Matt Salcedo.
What's up, guys?
Cynthia, could you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me to be on your show. And my name is Cynthia Muñoz. I'm the producer of the Mariachi Vargas Extravaganza and president of Muñoz Public Relations, which is a company that I've had for almost 30 years now.
Wow, it's been a while.
Yes.
And how long have you been there with the Mariachi Vargas from the very beginning?
Yes, this is my 26th year here of producing the Mariachi Vargas Extravaganza, and so I was actually a participant in the very first Mariachi Music Festival, which started here in San Antonio back in 1979. That was a music festival that had been produced by the city with Mariachi Vargas and Bell and Juan Ortiz. And at the time, I was a student with the San Antonio Independent School District, All District Mariachi. And I competed in the mariachi group competitions that were held that first year at the Market Square here in San Antonio. And so I grew up playing mariachi music through the church and through the school, and was part of those very first music festivals. And then later on, I started producing them.
Oh, okay. So, do you remember how y'all did in that first competition?
We won.
You won.
We won, but there wasn't very many groups. It was a small competition. I remember there being Los Changuitos Feos from Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a group from California. We were kind of the only ones from San Antonio back then. Which is why it was called the San Antonio Independent School District All District Mariachi Group. So yeah, we thought we were pretty badass, we came out the winners. But honestly, in comparison to the mariachi groups that we now see today from high schools, I mean, yeah, we were at a very beginner level, I would say, compared to what we see competition winners doing these days. But it was a lot of fun. I grew up playing the guitar and the violin, and I first got involved in mariachi music through the church choirs at St. Margaret Mary's, and then eventually San Jose Mission. I was part of the rondalla there at San Jose Mission. And, they've had a mariachi choir for 50 years. So I was a part of that back in the early 70s. Yeah, and it was just so beautiful. It was music that we used to go to San Jose Mission when we were children on special occasions, when we had family members visit from out of town. And so we would take them to this really special mariachi mass. And I always loved the music. I loved it so much. I wanted to dance, in church. My mother would, hit me on the hand to get me to stop dancing. But I loved the music so much. Then eventually my brothers, who played football, played with a guy whose sister was involved in the mariachi program at San Jose. And so through her, I found out about lessons and about practices, and I just sort of chimed in and blended in with the church choir. and made myself part of the group. And those were really good times because we grew up playing every single weekend uh, throughout my middle school and high school years. And there was a wonderful family named the Orta family. That was Jesse and Josephine Orta. They were the ones who were in charge of the mariachi music program there at San Jose Mission. And this couple went to Mexico back in the 1960s to learn the traditional mariachi mass, and then they brought it here to San Antonio. And this one family and their children taught hundreds of children and adults how to play and sing all of the beautiful songs that were part of various celebrations throughout the year. So, starting from songs that we learned for Dia de las Madres, for Mother's Day, the songs that were played during funerals, during rosaries, during quinceañeras, during weddings. We learned songs that were special during the Virgen de Guadalupe celebrations, during the posadas. This is how we learned all of the beautiful cultural traditions through mariachi music. So it was a really special time for me in my life, and again, this I'm so grateful for this family because they were so generous with their time in teaching dozens and dozens of children and adults all of these gorgeous traditions. So they would, once we learned the songs, Geraldine, the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Orta, would invite us to all of the tocadas, and these were just for fun. We never did it for money. It was just all pure fun. So there were some Sundays that we would play one, sometimes two, three, or four different masses throughout the day, and we would just tag along with her to perform at all of these different events, whether they were weddings or rosaries or funerals or cemeteries or quinceañeras, and it was I couldn't imagine spending my time in any other way because I loved the music so much. I thought, man, this would be really cool to be a full-time musician at some point in my life because I had so much fun.
So, so then, I mean, music, especially mariachi music, has been, I guess, rooted in you from a very early young age. It's been around you in the culture in San Antonio. You know, mariachi is very uh, big in San Antonio. So, where do you
It
feel
is.
that?
It is. One thing I have to say, Alexis, is we kind of grew up in during those very first concerts when Vicente Fernandez performed here in San Antonio. That was way back when. That was even before the first mariachi music festival. I remember Vicente Fernandez performing here in the arena that was connected to the convention center that it doesn't exist anymore. But he performed there with his son Alejandro Fernandez, and Alejandro must have only been like 5 years old at the time. But that was the time when Alejandro Fernandez sang, but he forgot the words and he started crying. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that clip, but it is the cutest clip in the world. And I see it every now and then. TV stations will play it because it was just sort of like a priceless moment. And Vicente was there just kind of calming him down. But San Antonio has always been really special in that way because we've had these beautiful concerts here in our city to enjoy for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've everywhere you go, San Antonio, there's going to be a mariachi at a restaurant. Now, not so much, but there was. So what I mean, you played mariachi for in groups and for many years. Where did it start to deviate, I guess, from being a performer to a producer?
Well, once I graduated from high school, I wanted to focus just on college. So I said, okay, no more mariachi. I had done it for a good solid 6 or 7 years. And college was really important to me. I wasn't the first one in my family to go to college, but I was the first one in my family to finish college. And so I wanted to just really focus on school. And I started working, and that was sort of just my transition into college. I went to SAC for 2 years. And then I left for a year and traveled with a group called Up With People. Up With People is an international group of students that travel around the world together for a year to learn about different cultures and countries. And that was a beautiful experience because I traveled to about 80 different cities, and including Hawaii and all over the southwestern part of the United States and the northeastern part of the United States. We were also in Canada, and we were also in China. We traveled to 5 different cities in China: Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing, Xi'an, and Wuxi. That was like back in 1985. I was in China in December of 1985. So that was way before all of the development happened in China. So with this group, I learned a lot about show production because we had this 2-hour show that we performed in every city that we went to. And the show was songs and dances. We had a live band, and the first half of the show was international songs and dances. Actually, the first half of the show was songs and dances from different eras, like the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then the second half of the show was international songs and dances. So that 1 year of traveling with Up With People was a wonderful experience because I learned a lot of different aspects of show production, from selling merchandise to learning about the lighting, the sound. We would set up our whole stage and tear it down after the concerts. So we would set it up, perform, and tear it down. Those were very long days. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And so that was kind of my first real exposure to show production. And then from there, I came back after that 1 year and finished up my school at UTSA, and I ended up getting a degree in American Studies. And I studied race and ethnicity and communications. And then my first job, pretty much right out of college, was working for an advertising agency. At the time, it was called Sosa, Bromley, Aguilar, and Associates. And they were based here in San Antonio. They were at the largest Hispanic market advertising agency in the country. And we had huge clients at the time. Coca-Cola USA was one of our clients. American Airlines was one of our clients. Burger King, Anheuser-Busch. In fact, those were the days when Coca-Cola had Selena on some of their commercials. So through the agency, I got to know Selena. And my brother and I used to go see her perform all the time at a club here in San Antonio called Desperados. And because I worked for the agency and she loved what the agency was doing for her and including her in these Coca-Cola commercials, we really got to become friends. And when we'd go see her perform at Desperados, she would invite us to hang out with her in her bus, during intermission. And then I ended up doing a tour with her for another client at the agency. It was called the Texas Commission of Alcohol and Drug Abuse. So we took her to 5 different cities in Texas, and she promoted higher education and of course, like staying away from drugs and alcohol. So it was a really wonderful experience working at the agency because I was exposed to other different aspects of the entertainment business. Those were back in the days. This is like 1988 to 1991 when I worked for the agency. So it was also during the period when Luis Miguel performed his very first concert in the United States. And again, Coca-Cola was one of the sponsors of the tour. So I didn't work so much on his concert, but my associates at the agency worked on his particular tour. But I did work on other productions, like with Rita Moreno. The agency would send me to different places. Like they sent me to a beautiful event to represent Coca-Cola one year. It was in Los Angeles, and it was the 25th anniversary celebration of the Teatro Campesino. And everybody was there. Edward James Olmos, Linda Ronstadt, Ted Danson, Cheech Marin, and it was a gorgeous show. It was a sit-down banquet, and all of these artists performed, and I remember being really inspired by that beautiful experience, and I felt just so fortunate to be representing Coca-Cola at this beautiful event at the time. And Coca-Cola was also sponsoring another event. It was the Tucson Mariachi Music Festival. And at that time, that festival was huge. That was at the Tucson Convention Center Arena. And I remember there were like thousands of people there. That was back in the heyday of the Tucson Mariachi Music Festival. There must have been like 13,000 people. So I went there a couple of times, again, to represent Coca-Cola or to assist my client at Coca-Cola. I would write her scripts, for any speaking engagements. I was, in the public relations department for the agency, so we were involved in the event coordination, script writing, press release distribution, those kinds of things. And so when I was there in Tucson, I remember thinking, well, San Antonio, we had one of these really cool mariachi music festivals, but it was gone. It had disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. To these early mariachi music festivals that took place. I think they took place like from 1979 to maybe 1982. It was just a few years because I don't remember there being a mariachi music festival the year that I graduated from high school, which was 1983. And then, Mariachi Vargas ended up touring with Linda Ronstadt during her Canciones de Mi Padre tour in 1986, 87, around that time frame. That was the last time Mariachi Vargas was in San Antonio with Linda Ronstadt. So after that, there was no Mariachi Music Festival. And so in 1990 and 1991, when I was going to Tucson, I was just thinking, gosh, we really need this back in San Antonio. This is so beautiful. And the early music festivals that we had were just, they were so powerful. They were fun. They were just so memorable. They were inspiring in so many different ways, and the music was just unforgettable, right? So I thought, we need this in San Antonio. But even at the time I was working for an agency, I didn't really know how to make that happen. So it wasn't until I left the agency and started my own company back in 1991. Well, by 1993, I started working with Ford Motor Company on corporate education programs. They became my client. And we were working on a program called Ford Salute to Education program. And that basically involved, I administered this program for them. It involved the distribution of scholarships to senior high school students in all of South Texas and grants to nonprofit organizations. So it's a really, really awesome program. And I worked with all of the Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealers. And one day, one of the Lincoln dealers came up to me. His name is Clarence Kalig. He's the owner of Kalig Enterprises, which owns the North Park Lincoln here in San Antonio, and he owns all of the Kalig. Now he owns like 14 dealerships in San Antonio. I think some in San Marcos, some in New Braunfels, all around this area. But Clarence said, "Hey, Cynthia, Lincoln is looking for a grassroots Hispanic market event to fund as a way to appeal to educated, professional Latino consumers. And do you have any ideas of what we can do? We want to have an event here in San Antonio, and we'd like your ideas." And so I thought, okay, cool, I can do this. I came up with 3 ideas. I said, well, let's bring in Placido Domingo. I thought that would be really, really cool to have a concert with Placido Domingo. Again, he appealed to the audience that they were looking for, because the Lincoln, and it was Lincoln and Mercury back then. Of course, the Lincoln brand is a higher end vehicle. And so that's why it was a bit more expensive. So they knew their demographic was professional, educated Latinos. So they wanted to have a really nice event that appealed to this market. And so I said, yeah, we can bring in Placido Domingo and have a grand concert with him. Or back then, Gloria Estefan was really popular too. I said, or we can bring in Gloria Estefan, for a concert, have a gala with her. I said, or maybe let's bring back, this concept that was born here in San Antonio with the Mariachi Vargas, and have them perform with the San Antonio Symphony, as they had done in the early mariachi music festivals. And Clarence said, I like that idea. Let's do it. He didn't even hesitate. He liked that idea of bringing in Mariachi Vargas with the San Antonio Symphony and having a beautiful show at the Majestic Theater. So he was able to secure the funding that came in from Ford and Lincoln Mercury for sponsorships for that show, and all of the Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealers at the time were behind it. They were very supportive of it, because the event was actually serving as a fundraiser for the educational component, which was the Ford Salute to Education program. And so that's kind of how it all happened. And back in those days, I worked with a wonderful man whose name was Wally Brady. Wally Brady was married to a woman named Eulodia, who was from Mexico. And he lived in California and she lived in Mexico. And Eulodia was a very good friend of Maestro Ruben Fuentes, the owner of Mariachi Vargas. And so Wally Brady was a publisher in the music business. His name was actually on Elvis Presley albums, on Frank Sinatra albums. When I met him, He was the first one who I worked with Mariachi Vargas back in 1995. So at that time, he was in his, I want to say, his late 70s, early 80s. But I felt so privileged to work with him because he really knew the entertainment business. And I learned a lot from him. So he became very good friends with Maestro Ruben Fuentes because one day his wife Eulodia asked him to see a film, watch a film, some Spanish language film. And while I remember Wally telling me this story, Eulodia had some friends, so she was doing them a favor by asking her husband to watch this film. And he said the film was crap, but the music in the film was amazing. Well, the music was Mariachi Vargas. So he told Eulodia, forget the film, I want to meet the band. And Eulodia was the one who connected Wally Brady with the Maestro Ruben Fuentes. And so then they became very good friends. And it was Wally Brady that ended up writing all the contracts for the Linda Ronstadt tour. When Mariachi, because Mariachi Vargas, accompanied Linda Ronstadt on her whole tour, her Canciones de mi Padre tour. Well, Wally Brady was the one that wrote up all those contracts. And then he became the point person and the manager from the U.S. for Mariachi Vargas. So he was the one I worked with. I was able to work with him for about the first 5 years up until his passing.
And
Wow.
so then the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza was born.
So then the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza was born in 1995, and it has continued every year now for 26 years.
That's a while. Well, so for our listeners that don't know exactly what that is or what that means, could you explain what the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza is, at least now, because I know it's changed over the years?
Okay, the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza is the Super Bowl of mariachi events. We like to still claim it as the largest and longest running mariachi music festival of its kind in the world, because there are a lot of beautiful events out there. It's so impressive what has happened and how mariachi music has grown so much. But I think the festival is unique because of the various components of the mariachi group competitions that are in these different levels of middle school, high school, and college, university. And then the vocal competitions that are really the largest of its kind, I think, anywhere. And the workshop component, and then of course the final grand finale event, which is the concert featuring competition winners and Mariachi Vargas de Tecalitlan. So it has always been, just such a beautiful and special event that we live for here in San Antonio. We literally live for this moment. I've told people before, this is bigger than Christmas. It's bigger than Thanksgiving. This is really the one time of the year that we embrace more than any other time of the year. And I mean, I think I can honestly say that we all feel that here. I mean, me, my staff, so many people in the mariachi community were all like, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's bigger than Christmas.
Yeah, I could second that because I've been competing there since I think 2009 middle school, and I remember looking forward to it every single year when I started in the 8th grade.
Nice. And what school
Yeah.
was what school was that?
I started at Chapa Middle School, and then I went on to Lehman High School, and then Texas State. So all those years, I always looked forward to to head to
Yeah,
Vargas.
yeah, and it's amazing how these schools outside of the Austin area have grown so much,
Hmm.
and there's so much talent in that area. Of course, we've had some excellent vocal competition finalists and winners from that area.
Yeah.
Giselle Rodriguez from Lehman
Hmm.
High School and Alexandra Dorantes. And gosh, every year it just gets more and more competitive
Yeah. They're
from
amazing.
students. Yeah, a lot of talent.
What are some of the most like memorable moments of the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza over these years, all these years?
Um, Definitely the performances, definitely the music. You know, I want to say absolutely the vocal competition is one of my favorite events. It's so much fun to watch. It's so super competitive. Although, I mean, I love the group competition too. It has gotten, I mean, phenomenal. The group competition now is over the top.
Yeah,
It is
they're amazing.
amazing, amazing. But I love the vocal competition because, you know, we just get to see some of those stars shine. And I remember just these outstanding performances from people who are former winners, grand champion winners of the extravaganza, like Celeste Rios, who is a Texas State University
Hmm.
graduate, and Celeste Guriel. Um, I remember her performance being fabulous, just amazing back then. Um, so I'm going to say like the winners: Victoria Costa, Vanessa Cerda Alonso from Houston, um, Virginia Steele. She was from Houston also. Um, Jackie Barrera from the Rio Grande Valley, Alexa Posas from the Rio Grande Valley.
Hmm.
There's just, you know, so much phenomenal talent, and I will always remember like their performances because they were so young at the time that they won. They're so talented, and I've always told people when you combine these three things: talent, youth, and education, it's so powerful. You can accomplish anything in the world.
It is. That you know that vocal competition, like you said, it is unique. We recently had a Best in U.S. Former Best in U.S. winner on the podcast, Carlton.
Yes, yes, of course. Carlton was the first winner from Lehman High School. Absolutely. Of course, he sang Hura Messi. I
Yeah.
remember the songs that these winners sing, and he was amazing. And you know, I love Carlton's motivation because I remember him telling me the story that he was attending Palo Alto College at the time. He had took the mariachi class with Juan Ortiz, and he told Juan Ortiz, I want to compete in the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza at the beginning of the semester. I want to sing this song, Jurame, and I want your help. And Juan said, okay, I'm going to help you. And they studied that song and they worked on it. And he was so determined to win. He had competed twice before. And this was the third time that he competed when he actually won the best vocalist of the year with that song, Hurame. Until this day, I love hearing him sing that song. I don't think I've heard anybody sing it better than Carlton.
Yeah,
He's
he's
amazing.
awesome.
He's amazing. So Some other memorable moments, though. I mean, of course, Mariachi Vargas's performances, and I had very fond memories of the days of Pepe Martinez because he was the musical director for those first 20 years of the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza, and he had just such a beautiful style, and he was really different, and he was a great leader. He loved to play more classical pieces, right? That was kind of his area of expertise. He loved instrumental classical pieces. There was also, one of my all-time favorite potpourris that Vargas played for many years was Mocedades. I love that particular piece of songs that were originated from Spain. And one of the reasons I like that song so much is because, all the guys got to sing a part of that song at one point or another. And those were songs that I grew up hearing when I was younger, and when my parents would take us, to hear rondallas. I remember them singing, Eres Tú as a young child. And so I really love that particular piece. But there was also a time when Pepe Martinez, we were in the Rio Grande Valley because, in addition to the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza, at one point, I was also producing concerts with Mariachi Vargas in the Rio Grande Valley, in Austin at the Long Center, in Houston at the Wortham Center, in Dallas. We used to take him to, we did some shows in Atlanta, Georgia also. So it was crazy times. I never saw the sun. We worked all the time for many, many years, but it never really seemed like work for me because I loved it so much. So those were, they were just good old times. But one time we were in the Rio Grande Valley. Mariachi Vargas was on stage performing. And all of a sudden, we lost power. And I freaked out. The sound just stopped. I mean, it was like everything just turned off. And I was backstage at the time that it happened. And I'm just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I was freaking out. And, Pepe was just like the coolest because he just continued. They just continued playing. They continued playing until the song was over.
Yeah.
Like as if nothing happened. He didn't even hesitate. And then after the song was over, we checked it out, and it didn't take us very long to get the song back up and running. I think somebody had just stepped on a cord.
Oh no.
And they unplugged something, so it was just really a quick matter of plugging it back. Yeah. But that was Pepe. He was just such a professional and so cool and very very easygoing personality. He always had a smile on his face. He was kind to everyone. Everybody, anytime any kid wanted to take a picture with him, he stopped, he smiled, he treated everyone the same. And so those were very, very special years that we had with Pepe. It was pretty heartbreaking when he got sick and he had a series of strokes, and then he had to retire from the group. But yeah, it was a privilege to work with him for so many years, as it is with Carlos Martinez. I mean, I really feel equally the same with Carlos. He is incredibly talented, and his arrangements and his style are different from Pepe's, but equally as beautiful.
Mariachi Vargas Extravaganza was the first. Well, I guess technically the second mariachi like festival convention I ever went to. The first was Festiva because I'm from. Well, I went to high school in McAllen, Nicky Rowe. So there at UTRGV back then, UTPA would host
Mhm.
Festiva every year. But Mariachi Vargas, I started going to um, 2012. So the fall of 2012. And, I've gone every single year since then. Um, I guess except this year. But
Nice,
I uh,
nice.
I never competed in high school, but Texas State, both Matt and I, when we were in the group together, we competed our freshman year at Mariachi Vargas with
I
Texas
love
State.
I love hearing that. And so I have to ask you a question. What is one of your most memorable moments since you've attended?
Oh, I mean, so many years. I I guess it would have to be the the third year I went, which was my senior year of high school, because that's actually kind of where I made my mind up to pursue mariachi after high school. That's when I saw Texas State compete there against UTPA, and that was a good performance. Or no, I'm sorry, they competed against each other in 2013. 2014 is when Texas State got first place, and so I was like, you know what, I want to do this. I want to be up on that stage. I want to compete. I want to do it because I know I can do it. And the next year I go to Texas State and we go and we compete. I mean, we got second, but still able to do that. And I think that moment, seeing the lights, the stage, the crowd cheering, I was like, I want to do that, at least once.
Cool. And you still play, right?
Yes, yes. Now I play with some groups here in Austin.
How about you, Matt? Do you have a
Um,
memorable moment?
the most memorable for me was actually when I competed as a vocalist in 2018. That was that was something else. I mean, I'm sitting there backstage, waiting to go on. I believe I was the second one to go in the college and the university category. So, I believe Sandoval, from Texas State also was the first one. So we went back to back, uh, from Texas State. So we were both really nervous because we were the first two to start it off.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for me, just going out on that stage and just seeing everybody out there, the lights were super bright. And then I probably shouldn't have done it, but I looked down and I saw the judges and I was like, oh, wow, look, there's Pique, there's, oh, look, there's Carlos. So that was probably the most memorable for me personally, because that was the first time I ever competed. So,
Nice,
yeah.
nice. Well, congratulations, because it's
Thank you.
tough just even making it to the finals. It's so tough.
Yeah,
It
it is.
was it was great, but one of the main reasons I guess that I kept going back every year was there's this thing with you get hundreds of mariachi musicians together once a year, and sometimes some of these people, that's the only time I see them, once a year they're at that festival, and usually get together for 2 3 nights during that festival, and you get together and you play, you just talk and you get to meet these big great musicians. Sometimes Mariachi Vargas members themselves go, and you just get to meet people from all over the country when you go
Hmm.
to this festival.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the experience, it really is electrifying. It's like, how do we describe this to people? The camaraderie, the energy, the excitement, the support that you see from family and friends cheering on their kids, their groups, I mean entire communities driving up from different cities. There's so much energy and excitement. And I applaud you guys because I really admire what y'all are doing in capturing a lot of the stories that we have to share here in Texas and beyond. And this is important that we take time to do this. And you guys are full-time students, and I'm sure y'all have a heavy load. And here we are at 10 p.m. recording this, and so I applaud you guys for your work and dedication and commitment in helping to do this, because we need to do it all together as a mariachi community. Share our stories, and we need to be able to do that verbally and in writing and in film and in photography, and as utilizing as many of the different mediums as we can possibly use to share our experience here.
Yeah.
You got something to say, Matt?
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we have this.
Yeah,
this
I mean,
platform.
we want to, share the experiences that we've had, along with people that have way more experience than both of us combined. I mean, when you get to hear, both sides of that story, it I guess it prepares you, or just gives you these knowledge that you didn't even know of, all these things that go behind the scenes. A lot of people just see, the final product, and we like to show what it takes to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, congratulations, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, who were some of the key influencers in your life with this?
Well, I talked a little bit about Jose Pepe Martinez Sr. He was definitely a key influencer. I talked a little bit about Wally Brady, who was the manager of Mariachi Vargas for those first 5 years. His daughter eventually took over, Kelly Davis. The owners of the agency that I worked with, that they're all still friends of mine. Lionel Sosa, Ernest Bromley, Al Aguilar. In fact, Al Aguilar, his business is now Creative Civilization, and his client is Gonzaga Medical Group. So Al has been very helpful to me in securing Gonzaga Medical Group as sponsors of the Mariachi Vargas Extravaganza, because none of this is possible without the sponsors of these events. Dr. William Gonzaga, I think, he's a great role model. He's the owner of Gonzaga Medical Group. He started his business 60 years ago, and he's still working. He is still working today. He is 88 years old, I believe, because he's the same age as my father. And he still goes into the office. So what a great role model he is. So a lot of people in business, in the business community, have been very influential, but also a lot of people in the mariachi community. I think Dr. Dalia Guerra has always been a close friend. She has done amazing work in the Rio Grande Valley. She has had a positive influence on so many schools and directors, and what has strengthened our mariachi community overall is, seeing mariachi students go to college, get their degrees, and then go back into the schools to create even stronger programs. So I think that's been really helped us all progress. That's also contributed to the expansion of mariachi music programs in schools throughout the country. And so there's a lot of good folks doing a lot of good things. John Lopez there at Texas State University. I mean, he's been at it for a long time. He has done great things for the university. So I do see a lot of leadership coming from the colleges and universities with mariachi music programs. I think Monica Fogelquist has done an excellent job in this very short time that she's been there at UT Austin. Here in San Antonio, we have Alicia Covarrubias at San Antonio College, and Michael. Michael. I forgot his last name, but he's over at UTSA with Dr. Tracy Cowden, and so yeah, we have a lot of good people doing great things in the all over middle school, high school, and colleges and universities. So there's been a lot of people who have influenced me and influenced others in the mariachi community. And so I feel very, very privileged to know a lot of these folks.
One thing that I've noticed, and I mean, I'm sure you have with, all these years of producing and being around the big mariachi festivals, that when, these groups like Mariachi Vargas and Norte Calitlan and all them come to the U.S., I mean, their concerts sell out. The people drive hundreds of miles to come see them. And I mean, they love it performing. But at the same time, in Mexico, from what I've seen and what I've heard, it's different. They're still really appreciated there, and people still adore them and go to their concerts. But when they come to the U.S., it's like this whole different thing where they they're like at a different level when they're here. The kind of treatment they get, or there's the people that are so invested in their concerts and their music. Have you noticed something like that? When groups from Mexico come here and tour the U.S.
Yeah, I definitely. Part of that is just, I think, the places that they perform in Mexico have traditionally been different than the places here in the United States. It is a whole different experience to see Mariachi Vargas perform in a grand theater indoors versus maybe like at a palenque outdoors, which is more of the tradition in Mexico. But that's also changing. There's a couple of shows I like to go to in Mexico as often as I can. One of them is the Mariachi Encuentro Internacional in Guadalajara. That's a beautiful show in a beautiful theater called the Teatro de Gollado. And then the show that I've gone to in the past few years, every year, has been the one in Monterrey, Mexico, because I have cousins in Monterrey. And that's very well attended. It's inside. It's in a beautiful theater. When I invite my cousins, they're blown away. My cousins are blown away by the whole experience. So many people have never had the experiences that we have, or seeing Mariachi Vargas perform inside in a beautiful theater, and it's as life-changing for them as it is for many of us here in the United States. But one thing that makes us so different here in the U.S. is our strong infrastructure of school-based mariachi music programs, because that's pretty much non-existent in Mexico. So that has really contributed significantly. The fact that we have these school-based mariachi music programs that are embedded in so many of the districts here in Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona. Yeah. So it is. It's a very different experience for Mariachi Vargas here in the U.S. than it is in Mexico. But I hear a lot of people, say, well, people tend to take mariachi music for granted in Mexico. But I really believe that it's just the location of where they perform. They tend to perform more maybe like in restaurants, in bars, um, in palenques, in private parties, and not so much inside the theaters like we see more of here in the United States.
And that's actually one of the things that kind of attracts me to go every year, because I mean the extravaganza it's held right on the river. You got the nice Christmas lights, the water there, the restaurants, the scenery, the theater in there is very nice. So yeah, that is a very great location to have that festival every year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
so where would you rank some of the greatest accomplishments that of the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza over the years?
Well, definitely. I think we have all contributed to the growth of mariachi music programs. They've grown like crazy. It's so awesome to see how many schools have mariachi music programs now. And I'm going to say there's I mean, this is probably a very conservative number, but there are well over 25,000 students involved in school-based mariachi music programs in Texas alone. So that has been something I think we can all be proud of, not just the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza, but all of the mariachi community working together. I think that's been a really big accomplishment. And with that has come, tougher competitions and greater talent and opportunities that have opened up for a lot of our students, whether it be participating in an international television reality show or being invited to perform with the Houston Grand Opera. That's very exciting for me personally, because I'm very proud of these students that have gone on to perform with like the Houston Grand Opera, like Vanessa Alonso and Sebastian de la Cruz and Francisco Garcia and Yomara Cortez. She was selected as Vanessa's understudy. And so these are all four of our former participants and winners of the extravaganza that have gone on to be selected to perform in different roles with the Houston Grand Opera. If you think about it, people study their entire lives to get a spot with the Houston Grand Opera. I mean, that is a huge deal and a great honor. And it's really exciting to me when Houston Grand Opera folks come to our events, like the vocal competition, specifically to recruit talent for some of their upcoming shows. I mean, that tells me we're doing something really great together here in the mariachi community. That's been very exciting. And then the TV reality shows, that also gives our students a whole different experience, and to work with celebrity figures, to work with first class productions, to get international exposure. And we've seen many of our students move on to participate in some of these international television reality shows, like Sebastian de la Cruz, who was the first to participate in an English language television reality show. And of course, that was back in 2012 when he auditioned for America's Got Talent and made it all the way to the top 10. And everybody knew Sebastian de la Cruz. And it was so exciting, to watch him go through that. And a lot of the kids have gone through. Clyde Guetta was on one. Jackie Barrera was on La Voz Kids. Francisco Garcia was, I believe, on La Voz Kids. Victoria Costa was on American Idol. Virginia Still from Houston, she's been on several. And so I think these experiences really help our young artists grow even more. And it helps them create a much larger fan base. I mean, I remember talking to Clyde Guetta after he did this last TV reality show. I believe it was, what was it? Not Mexico's Got Talent, but La Voz Mexico, was it? I don't remember what the name of
Yeah, I
the
think
show
so.
he
He was on
did.
there.
But he said, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Like people from all over the world were watching me." Like he was so excited. Like his fan base just shot up by the thousands overnight, and it was so exciting for him. And I was so excited for him. So that's been really fun. I think we have a lot more work to do. And I see like in the next 25 years, we're just sort of like at the cusp of everything that's happening in music and entertainment and the doors that are opening for Latinos. It's very exciting. So I would really like to see more recordings, like helping some of these students record more audio recordings, but also videos that we can now put on YouTube because everything's changed so much in the past 25 years. Like we don't really have to rely on a particular record label for that exposure, right? You just make a great video and put it on YouTube and hope that it goes viral and people enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so that those materials, those audio recordings, video recordings, photography, bios, those all become part of marketing packages to help these kids book performances in other markets with other presenting arts organizations. So I think that's kind of like where I see us going in the future is and then there's also more less expensive ways to create these materials too, right?
Right.
Because a lot of folks have better audio recording equipment in their homes. Videography has become a lot easier now. People can edit videos from their homes. I mean, it used to cost thousands of dollars to produce a music video, when now you could produce something pretty decent, maybe if you have a really good friend, for a couple of $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see that happening. We haven't done much of that in the past 25 years, but I definitely see us doing more of that in the next 25 years.
Well, considering all that, what's in the works for the near future, such as this year's extravaganza?
Okay, so this year you will be able to attend the Mariachi Vargas extravaganza.
Oh, really? Really?
Have no fear. We are going virtual this year. And we have a lot of really cool things planned. So back when COVID hit in February, we stepped up our email blasts and the blogs that we were writing and posting on mariachimusic.com. And I had interviewed Francisco Garcia from Roma because I was so proud again of him being selected by the Fort Worth Opera to perform, which he did that in last year, actually. But I hadn't written anything about him, and so I was talking to him about his experiences, and I was asking him if he, what instruments he played, and he was telling me the violin and the ukulele. And I said, the ukulele, why are you playing the ukulele? And he said, well, because there's some really good tutorials on YouTube on the ukulele. So I Googled them and I thought, oh my gosh, there's a guy that has hundreds of videos teaching kids how to play the ukulele on YouTube. And this is what Francisco was watching. So I thought, man, we need this. I started Googling, tutorials for mariachi, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff out there. So I started calling some of the members of Mariachi Vargas. I remember talking to Jonathan, and I'm like, Jonathan, we need to do something. We need to do something for the kids. And so I kept on looking at different tutorials, and the summer came along, and I wasn't quite sure what we were going to do until Mariachi Vargas, decided that they wanted to come and do a drive-in concert here in San Antonio on October 16th. And so I said, great, we'll have them here in San Antonio. We can get to work in recording some tutorials. And so we had Mariachi Vargas here for a whole week in October. We brought in about 6 of the members, 7 of them in advance before the rest of the group. And we used that time for several things. We were conducting live Zoom classes where we were pairing up members of Mariachi Vargas with different schools. And then we were also recording tutorials. We have our team at Solar Shot, our videographers, who came over to the Grand Hyatt where Mariachi Vargas was staying. We set up a whole crew in a meeting room, and then we just started kicking out some tutorials. We recorded about 16 of them. So what everyone is going to get to see this week are 4 of the harp tutorials that were recorded by Victor Alvarez, the harp player for Mariachi Vargas. And they're beautifully done. And it's I can't wait for you guys to see them, because you're gonna be like, man, I want to play the harp. They're so cool. You're just gonna want to learn how to play the harp after you see them. So we'll start the week with these tutorials, but we also recorded trumpet tutorials, violin tutorials, vocal tutorials, and guitar tutorials. So this is kind of the first wave of tutorials, and we'll continue rolling them out even after this week, through the end of this year and probably into January. So that's going to be really exciting. We also use that time with Mariachi Vargas to record podcasts, and started a Mariachi Vargas Extravaganza podcast channel, and then we also recorded some video interviews that we have uploaded on the mariachimusic.com YouTube channel. So it wasn't until, I'm not really on Spotify as much as, the younger folks are. And so I really hadn't seen, what was up there on Spotify, and until we had posted our first podcast. And so I was pleasantly surprised to discover, again, all of the great work that you guys have been doing, all year, during COVID, and the wonderful interviews that y'all have on your channel there on Spotify too. So that's very cool. It's very cool. It's very cool to see more of us doing this kind of work. And I hope to see more and more and more, because we have so many stories to share with people, and no one person can do it all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories out there still. So many.
So we have we had the Zoom classes, we have the podcasts, we have the videos, we have the tutorials. So lots of exciting things. We've got about almost 20 pieces we're rolling out this week, and what's happening tomorrow is the harp tutorial, but also we will have a session at 2:00 with some of the representatives from colleges and universities with mariachi music programs. So we'll be on live on the Mariachi Vargas Extravaganza Facebook page with Dr. Dalia Guerra, with Monica Fogelquist, with John Lopez, and with Michael from UTSA. And so that's going to be fun. And we're going to be talking about ways to, what these colleges and universities have done during COVID to keep their students engaged and motivated. And we're hoping to share some really fun ideas that other mariachi directors can start using in their classrooms to continue working with their students and helping them develop their art form as we continue through these challenging times.
Well, there you have it, guys.
Yeah, you can still make the events, attend the Mariachi
Yeah.
Vargas this year.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We hope everybody enjoys them and takes time to watch them and listen and learn from Mariachi Vargas. They were fabulous to work with. They were so gracious with their time and so willing to just work with us in producing these materials. And I think this is kind of like the first wave. We hope that we will be doing this all over again in February in a collaborative initiative with Festiva.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really neat. I'm excited to see the turnout of it. I mean, obviously this year it's kind of out of our hands. There was, everything, but that's exciting to hear.
So, is there any plugs, anything you'd like to say, Cynthia? Some closing remarks.
Just that the COVID has hit everyone really, really hard, but especially musicians and of course our mariachi musicians. A lot of people in our mariachi community have been affected. Their families have been affected. And, we know Mike Miguel Guzman, who, is also an instructor there with the mariachi music program at Texas State, is currently in the hospital with COVID. His wife posted that on Facebook.
Oh, yes, we were going to mention that. But yeah, Mike Guzman, our very first guest on this podcast, actually is in the hospital right now.
Yes,
COVID.
yes. And so, our hearts are definitely with everyone who is currently suffering with COVID and whose families have been affected. And our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we wish for a fast and full recovery. And I just want to encourage everyone to continue staying safe. Don't let your guards down. There's so much that we can do right now with our time that we have. We can use this time to be creative. Creative, again, with whatever mechanism you want, whether it's writing, video, photography, writing music, writing stories. There's so much we can do to use this time wisely. Limit your Netflix watching. I do binge watch on Netflix. I do. I'm guilty of that. But, I have to snap myself out of that and go, wait a minute, I need to be creating my own Netflix story, not watching someone else's Netflix story. I want to create my own Netflix story.
Yep.
So, that's it. This, I just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of this time and use it wisely to create something new, whatever it is, whatever your heart desires.
And it makes good practice time too.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah,
Alexis?
absolutely. Absolutely.
I should do that. But no, we want to thank Cynthia Muñoz for coming out and being a guest this week.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you again for inviting me. Great job. Appreciate it.
So this has been episode 22 of Los Mariachi Sagas. Thank you all for listening. Go make sure to follow Mariachi Vargas Extravaganza this week. There's a lot of events coming up. And, like, share, subscribe. And we'll see you all in a few days.
See you guys.
Mariachi Sagas.